So winter is coming, or it's almost here, and I think it's time to talk about 7 tips on how to improve your winter landscape photography. Hey everyone, my name is Toma, Tom here on YouTube. This channel is all about landscape photography, so if you're interested in this kind of topics, make sure to subscribe for more similar videos. Also, if you want to support me, you can buy my landscape photography ebook or my editing course on Foggy forests. All the details are on my website, and the link to that is in the description of this video. Now let's get back to the topic from today, and that is to talk about 7 tips that I have for you that you can use and you can improve your winter landscape photography. I will use some of my photos to prove my point, and I will basically pinpoint some situations that you can't miss, and I also offer some side tips. So there are a lot of tips in this video. Just make sure to watch it until it ends if you don't want to miss anything I have to say. Tip number 1 that I have for you is to try and capture the mist in the mountains. It's not that pleasant to be in the mountains when there's mist and there's cold, and the weather situation is not that beautiful, but believe me, the photos will look really good. For example, in this image over here, I have all this mist around this rock over here, and I'm using the fog as a negative space to create this beautiful feeling of this rock being lost in a sea of clouds and fog. For this one over here, I really liked the rocks that were emerging from the fog that was lowering. Over here I had this pine tree in the foreground, and the rock over here, it's much more visible, but again I have a rock that it's in the background in the fog, and this creates a sense of mystery. You're kind of wondering what is out there, and it's kind of like your brain is trying to complete the story, and because of that I think these kind of photos look really nice. And this last image for this first tip, where it's almost like an abstract image, even though in nature there are no abstracts elements, but we have this formation over here, and then this rock pointing up, and this is a very simple image. It's graphical, and I'm using all this negative space to emphasize the rock formation over here. Tip number 2 is to keep it simple. Winter offers this possibility where you can have these really simple compositions, and as you can see here I focused on these pine trees in the background, and you have a feeling of depth because these foreground elements are a little bit in blur, but the white that is used as a negative space is the one that adds this feeling to the photo that you're looking at something that is out of context. And this is actually maybe another way to put it. These minimalist shots is taking out elements from the whole picture, and you present them in a minimalist way actually. So this is again an image where I'm using this ridge that comes down and this other edge that intersects right over here, and in this area I'm placing this group of pine trees. Or in this image where I use the top of these pine trees that are covered in snow, and again the background is kept very simple, and you can create your own story of what is out there, or maybe you just admire the top of the pine trees covered in snow. Tip number 3 is related to pine trees specifically, because if you go up in the mountains at the first snow, when the snow is actually sitting on the pine tree, it's not falling down, it's not melting down, that is the moment when you will capture these pine trees that they almost look like Christmas trees. I mean, whenever I'm looking at this image over here, I have the feeling I'm looking at a Christmas tree. The idea is to find an interesting pine tree, not to photograph the whole bunch of pine trees, and just take your time, look for something interesting, and a photo like this can be very simple and beautiful. I have another situation here where again I have a pine tree that is covered in snow. The branches are bent down because of the weight of the snow. The background is blurred, so I'm using a longer focal length to separate the pine tree from the rest of the pine trees in the background. But the actual element that helped me decide to photograph this pine tree was the light over here. And it's almost like you know how on the Christmas tree you place a star on the top of the tree, and well, that is why I photograph it. The light, it's kind of like the star on top of the Christmas tree, but you have a very simple and natural decoration. And this example where I have the morning light glowing on this group of pine trees, and I have this one which is a lot taller, so it stands out. But the separation in this case is created because over here I have shadow, and I shifted everything towards blue, and over here I have warm light, and everything is bright, and it kind of pops. Tip number 4 is a very simple one, and that is to look for interesting shapes in the snow. This usually happens when it's really windy, and the wind creates these beautiful shapes in the snow. You get texture, you get interesting shapes, lines, whatever. And these kind of elements look really well before sunrise, after sunset, right when the sun is rising or right when the sun is setting, because there are all sorts of colors of pinks and magenta in the shapes of the snow. Tip number 5 is to search for a foggy sunrise. Now you can check if there will be fog in the early hours of the morning. You can use an app to predict the dew point. So there is it's very possible to predict fog. You can't predict if you're actually going to see the sun or the light of the sunrise going through that fog. It's probably very difficult to know, but you have to try and go there. For this set of photos, I was photographing the sunrise, and there was a lot of fog, and as you can see here, it's a break in the fog in this area over here, and then of course the fog lights up and the entire valley looks really beautiful. Over here I was on another mountain, but the same thing happened. Now the thing that I was after was this shape over here, and I also liked how these this ridge of snow was having these shapes, these frozen small elements created by the wind. And again, I waited for the sun to rise and had this really beautiful image. This is the same place, moved a little bit to the left. Now I'm back on the other mountain. These are the first hours of the morning, and you can see there's a separation in color. Over here I have the warm light of the sunrise, and in the lower part of the photo I have the blue feeling of the weather, which was really cold. And this was this is my favorite photo from that morning, where I'm using the rocks as a foreground element to kind of point you into the valley. And again, the fog that it's lit up by the warm sunrise light looks really well. Tip number 6 is to separate your subject from the rest of the elements by creating a separation with light. So this is again happening during sunrise. And as you can see, I'm photographing this peak where I have light up here, but in the rest of the image, I don't have light. So this is a very simple way in which you can create separation and where the subject really pops, because let's face it, when you have light only on the area that you want, then that area will draw the attention of the viewer. This was a very lucky morning. I didn't check if there's going to be a full, if I'm going to see a moon set during my sunrise, but it happened. So, and I just had to change position until I had the moon right here. But again, I'm having light from here to here, and in this lower part I don't have light, I have shadow. And this is a very simple way in which I keep your attention in this area. And tip number 7, it's something that I couldn't left out from my video, and that is to pay attention when there is fog in the forest. Now, if you have frost in the forest and you have snow that is freshly snown in the forest, then you're going to have a really beautiful scenery. And as you can see, just a simple trail. It's just a simple trail going in this direction. The light comes from here, but you have a really beautiful feeling when you're looking at the photo. Here I'm I'm creating a panorama, and again, this frost, this snow that is on every branch of the trees. This is what creates this beautiful atmospheric feeling in the photo. If you find a tree that still has some dark brown leaves, you can shift the hue a little bit and get this really beautiful image. Or you can use yourself to create perspective in the image, or to present the true proportion of the forest. It helps a lot if you have colorful clothes. If you're dressed in black, I don't know if this will look this good. Again, I found a tree which was really beautiful with these leaves, and I added them in a way that made them pop. That was it for today, guys. I hope you found all the information useful. If you have something to add, or a question, or just a comment, use the comment section below. Don't forget about my ebook and my editing course. If you want to support me, the link is in the description of this video. And until next time, keep on photographing, because it's the only way to get better. Bye bye.